Good day. Welcome to another edition of Ibima Mungo's Perspective on Global Affairs, the X-Review edition. We are getting to a point where there will possibly be a strike against Iran in the Middle East. President Trump has said that help is coming the way of Iranian protesters, and this has begun to cause disquiet in the Middle East there. Some of the countries are telling President Trump to hold off, those Gulf countries who have economic interests they want to protect. And some, believe it or not, one who actually wants Iran to be attacked is also considering and telling President Trump, from reports we're hearing, that he should hold off. But anyway, as you all know, the X edition is where I take deep dives from my X feed and check out the geopolitical news. So let us go in and see what we have today. My first story here is a story from the Israeli station called Channel 12. It says, according to Israel's Channel 12, in the last few hours, the security level in Israel has been raised to a particular high alert mode. According to Israeli security agencies, an attack on Iran by US is no longer a question of if, but rather when. There is fear that Iran may retaliate, attacking Israel. So this is what they are worried about now. But definitely, if America is going to attack, it won't be through ships. It will definitely be through their vast area of planes. But now we see that Iran has released a threatening video stating, expect the end of Israel tonight. Yes, this is one of their hypersonic bombs, hypersonic missiles. They have a lot of it. This is what Iran is using as its protection. Many of these missile systems are underground, deep, deep, deep underground in the mountains. They've been showing these missiles. They showed different missile arrays. They've been Saboraptoring, showing off their extensive missile cache, and many of these missiles are underground. We saw what they did to Israel in the 12-day war. Another site here is saying some unusual U.S. military movement is being seen. 8 U.S. KC-135 refueling aircraft recently stopped in Hawaii. That was their first stop before flying to the Middle East for the June strikes on Iran's nuclear site. So people who track these planes are now saying that they are landing in most of the cities of Hawaii. Hawaii is one of the big bases where America has a very extensive base. It's in the Pacific there. And it's about 3,000 kilometers away from the American mainland. And from there, they hop into the Middle East. They refuel their planes as the main planes they use here, obviously, will be the B-1 and B-2, the B-2 bombers. Middle East, someone says, Middle East Observer, Trump's announcement of working on getting help to Iran, I can only think of one thing. If there's to be an operation, it will be an assassination wave followed by targeted strikes on security and media infrastructure in Balochistan, border with the Pakistan and Afghanistan, Kurdistan, border with Iraq, in an attempt to make separatist groups take control of routes and cities in the border. I think I should just put the map here for us to see. This is one of the big challenges of Iran. It has some countries around it that are not good actors. It has Pakistan, it has Afghanistan, but Pakistan has actually assured the Iranians that if there's ever a need, if there's an attack, nuclear attack by the Israelis, they are ready to give Iran nuclear umbrella because they are the only Muslim country that has nuclear weapons. So this creates all these neighboring countries sometimes create vulnerability for Iran. It's a very extensive border they have. It's a big country. And it is for that reason why they're able to have and ship in rebels or people who are not necessarily happy with the government. So this report here is that there's no possibility of a direct war with Iran. So if they are to do anything, it will be an attempt to attempt these Syrian-style scenarios of internal fragmentation wars. The Iranian authorities are already intercepting weapon shipments, and they are probably aware of such possibilities. Yes, Turkey has actually been saying that they are helping them stop Kurdish rebels from getting in. Islamic State rebels, Islamic State warriors have actually been fingered in the demonstrations going on in many of the cities across Iran, especially in western part of Iran. So this is what Iran faces, a very big, extensive border. It has to guard these borders, and then it has to continue to look at the Persian Gulf here to make sure that it is not attacked from there. So we're watching this as it's unfolding now. The next story is what story is this? It says it's a satire. Netanyahu is whispering into Trump's ears. Ukraine, Venezuela, Greenland, Iran, Nigeria. This is all of President Trump's attacks in just his 1 year of being in office. On January 20th, it will be 1 year in office, and he has had a very extensive military engagements with the American forces. This is Ukraine. So students of the armed forces of Ukraine are being brutally tormented. A 17-year-old boy hanged himself. In Revne region, the body of a 17-year-old cadet named Pavel was found. He was hanged. He had been in the training unit. First-year students were tormented. Well, this may be a sort of like a whistleblower report. And sometimes when you see this, this is Zlati. Is he pro-Ukrainian? Some of them are pro-Ukrainian, some of them are Russian. And in this particular case here, he doesn't indicate. But I do get a lot of his tweets. So he tells us, oh, it's from Revokna. While Ukrainian media are reporting on the tragedy, military officials are trying to cover it up. Well, it's one of those things. Suicides happen even in all the military formations across the world. It's a very brutal training process, and some of the young minds are not able to cope with it. So we do get reports of suicide. Europeans are trying to remind US to exit, that they exist with Greenland troops talks. Okay. Let us see this. Bloomberg reporting on German and British plans to deploy troops to Greenland signals an attempt to show that Europe is still capable of being in control of security and defense, says Brussels-based analyst Paula Roffun. Okay. Yes, I got a report yesterday that Britain and Germany and in fact France, they're all thinking of an expeditionary force to put in Greenland and prevent possibly an American takeover of the Danish part of the Danish Commonwealth. It is a declaration of intent meant to give Europe a trump card in negotiations, but Washington likely sees the move as mere unnecessary nuisance. It will be very interesting to see when finally Trump makes his move on Greenland, if European allies and NATO allies will be willing to go ahead and challenge America. That will be a very interesting thing for the world to see. One country that will be very particularly interested in seeing how that will shape up is definitely going to be Russia. They have an interest in making sure that these two allies fracture. Anyway, let's go on to the next story. The next story is also what just happened here. My thread just suddenly changed, and I think it just fell off sequentially. Let me try and get back on track. Well, I don't know what happened. It just seemed to have, but maybe I'll just continue from from here. It says Trump administration has asked EU countries to share intelligence on possible targets within Iran. Washington Post is reporting. Okay, German Ministry of Defense urges German citizens to leave Iran immediately and avoid travel to the country due to heightened security. So it seems like something is really cooking up with Iran there now. And this is not a middle finger to a single person. It is a middle finger to the whole world. Trump has become dangerous man. Yeah, someone called him. He went to the Ford plant, and someone threw aspersions on him, and he promptly responded. We have another story here from Russia. Russia says that Maria Zakharova, dozens of Russian journalists paid the ultimate price for their beliefs, falling victim to targeted attacks by Ukrainian troops. Yeah, a lot of journalists have been attacked in Ukraine and in the Ukrainian war theater, and they've been killed. So Maria Zakharova is actually bringing out this fact. So she says, she is a spokesperson of the Russian Ministry of Foreign Affairs. So she says dozens of Russian journalists paid the ultimate price for their belief, falling victim to targeted attacks by Ukrainian troops. We will never forget them. The perpetrators of crime against them will not escape responsibility. It's both ways anyway. This is a very brutal war, and it's a war that really needs to end. The Premier of Greenland, this is, yesterday I showed a video in my main channel that where the Prime Minister of Denmark Greenland was saying that he chooses Denmark, he chooses EU, and he chooses NATO. The Premier of Greenland said today, we prefer to stay with Denmark. And Trump said, who is that? Said the Premier of Greenland. Well, that's their problem. I disagree with him. I don't know who he is. Don't know anything about him, but that's going to be a big problem for him. Yes, I'm just erring on caution by not pressing the button because this is News Nation and I don't know if they are copyright protected. Bipartisan bill introduced to block U.S. from seizing NATO allied territory. Senator Murkowski and Shaheen introduced the NATO Unity Protection Act, prohibiting the use of federal funds to blockade, occupy, annex, or control any NATO ally territory. There is no doubt that this action by President Trump is not being supported bipartisan in the Congress and in the Senate. But it is President Trump wanting to write himself into history. He wants to be like Theodore Roosevelt, expand American territories by seizing, annexing, or buying Greenland. He said whichever way, Greenland is going to be America's because of national security, as he puts it. So this is the bill. One person has put a bipartisan bill introduced to block U.S. seizing NATO allied territory. The people in Congress and the Senate, they understand that seizing a NATO allies territory is going to be the fracturing and the end of NATO. And that might just be what they want to prevent, but I can very well say that they are not going to succeed. President Trump is very intent on that. Let's go on now to parts of Kyiv are now in total darkness with entire streets unlit, only a few central boulevards faintly illuminated. The strike with the Oreshnik, it was said to have been a strike on an aviation repair center in Lviv, but it has definitely wreaked a lot of havoc on the gas storage plants. Whatever it is, Ukraine has been, Kyiv particularly, has been suffering from lack of energy, lack of gas, lack of water, and it's really devastating. This is about the third day now this is going on, and it's been a very harrowing time for the people of Kyiv. It's really a pain that they are going through now. Let's go now to Canada's new government. Canada's new government is investing $5 billion over 3 years in new upgraded hospitals, emergency rooms, and urgent care centers. Well, that's a local news, but I know one thing for sure. Carney is moving now. He's going to visit China to try and research relationship between Canada and China. If that story falls into our trade, well, we'll carry on with it. Israel signed several accords on multinational billion gas deals, technology and military deals with its trading partners in 2025. We know particularly the one it signed with Egypt was a $35 billion deal for gas for 15 years. These are Israel's biggest trading partners. Everybody has China as their largest trading partner. And United States, most of it being that they sell arms to Israel. They sell a lot, all their B-35s, they sell large amounts of bombs, ordnance. So this is Egypt. It's quite ironic that they still do a lot of extensive trade with Egypt, but most of all is mainly with European countries, This one here is very interesting. Despite the fact that Turkey and Israel are on the different sides, two poles of the geopolitical plane, you can see they still do extensive trade between themselves, $35 billion worth of trade. China, of course, $86 billion, but America is their largest trading partner, and it's very understandable. America is their biggest security investor, biggest investor in mainly IT services, because Israel is a big IT nation. So it will make sense that America is their largest. It will be one of the few countries that China is not the largest trading partner of. Yes, I think I will just go. President Trump has threatened to take very strong action against Iran. Yes, we have heard that already. This one is some geopolitics in Africa here. Egyptian President Sisi calls Somalia a failed state right in front of Somali President Sheikh Hamoud, saying, using it as a stark warning to Egyptians about the dangers of instability. There's something very interesting going on in the Horn of Africa here now. Egypt is playing politics, geopolitics particularly. Somalia is going through some serious problems because of the recognition of Somaliland by Israel. That has created big cleavage in their country. But the Somali president has been going around trying to repair whatever damage is being done, whatever relationships that they need to mend. I don't know the full intent of this. Let us listen in.
الصومال دخلت في مشكلة سنة 90-91 ومن 91 لغاية النهاردة استمرت مشاكل وتحديات عصفت بقدرات دولة لمدة أكثر من 30.
That's true. They've been having problems for 30 years now, but now there's a coalition made up of Egypt and most of the countries in that region, led by Saudi Arabia. They are trying to make sure that they now defend the sovereignty of Somalia. Obviously, and Turkey too is also in that coalition. That's why, obviously, that the Somali president went to Somalia, to Egypt, and he was given a talking down. China hits a record 1.2 trillion trade surplus in 2025. 20% year-on-year increase. This is despite all the attempts to hold off China, tariff them. China has found new markets instead of the American market. America is contributing very much less to China's trade these days. But China has expanded its trade to Africa, to Latin America. We saw that one of the reasons why President Trump was not too happy with Maduro was the extensive trade and trade relationship China has with Venezuela. So Brazil, Argentina, all the countries of Latin America, China has made sure that they diversify their economy, and ASEAN particularly, even those neighbors that are antagonistic to them, have added to this large number of 1.2 trillion that we now see. Financial Times is reporting this story that was carried yesterday. The Prime Minister of Denmark, this is the man that President Trump says he's not happy with. He doesn't know him, and he will be in big trouble for saying that he chooses Denmark over America. It's a Prime Minister, Jens Frederik Nielsen, said Greenland did not want to be owned, governed, or be part of the US, while Danish leader Mette Frederiksen insisted Greenland is not for sale. This is going to be one testy geopolitical action that we are going to see. One thing, though, that has happened is that Danish Mette Frederiksen was very gung-ho about supporting Ukraine in recent months. She now has a new challenge, a little challenge she just have to take care of. Anyway, NATO's Mark Rutte insists that China will make a move on Taiwan, and that it will be a prelude to Russia attacking Europe. He says these things in a manner with certainty that tends to make one wonder if he's a soothsayer. Let's listen into him.
Encouraging us, maybe even stronger, not forget, our security service are telling us that by 27, 29 or 31 the Russians are ready to try something against us. At least they have the capability to do it. And my worry is if China would move on Taiwan, they will never do this alone. They will always force their junior partner, being one Vladimir Putin in Moscow, to move against us. And we have to be ready. And I would say let's be thankful for what Trump did, really encouraging us, maybe even stronger than encouraging us, to get to this 2%. For Belgium, 4 billion more than what you guys spent at the beginning of the year, thanks to Theo Frank. And
yes,
let's not forget.
He's ratcheting up the rhetoric. This is the rhetoric of most of the European leaders now, that Russia will attack Europe. And for that reason, he has expanded it to add China. I think the main thing here is that they're using the buzzwords that may interest people. First signs, the US is preparing for an attack on Iran. Citizens evacuation order. One, Delta Force near Iran's western flank, massive airlift in the Persian Gulf, and the heightening political language. So we may not have time to go through all of it, but the US has urged citizens to leave Iran immediately and avoid travel. Then two, Delta Force near Iran's western reports indicate US Special Operations Unit, including Delta Force, are being repositioned near this area, critical to allowed or covert entry. Then massive airlift into the Persian Gulf. Since early January, dozens of US military cargo planes, primarily C-12, 17, and C-5, have surged into the Persian Gulf area, led by the Al Udeid base in Qatar. CENTCOM Forward Air War Headquarters. And then the fourth one, the hardening of political language. Senior US officials have openly referenced strong options. I should add that quite a lot of the Gulf countries, they are not particularly sold on this. They've been pressing on President Trump to hold back from taking action. This is still the breaking news again from New York Times this time. It says China announced the world's largest trade surplus, 1.2 trillion in 2025. It is as its export flooded global markets. Sometimes when you open these stories, you go to their website, but this is a report we just looked through, and it shows you the formidable strength of China's manufacturing and all the services they give out there. They lead in almost everything. Most of the countries that trade with China in the ASEAN area are buyers of intermediate products, semi-processed products that they use and add into their own manufacturing also. So this expansion in trade, they are buying, they're making their supply chains very resilient and all. So it is to be expected that they will be where they are now. China is now very, very formidable. They are the leading trading partner of 120 countries in the world. We should remember that. They call themselves a superpower. They call themselves a civilization. Superpower rise and fall. Civilization endure for millennia. This is an interesting post, very cryptic. Whatever it is, whoever they are talking about, the European Union. Well, we are in a very testy time for Europe, very testy time for most of the European countries, Germany and Britain particularly, and we will continue to see as geopolitics evolves. This is, as of yesterday, there has been no naval movement towards Iran at all in the last week, and little news of mass air deployment. This is just the reason why I've said it repeatedly in my main channel, that I doubt if this talk about a raid on Iran is going to take place. There may be some strike. I have said that there may be a tokenistic strike. But if you remember, in the last operation in June against Iran, one thing did happen. There was movement of military assets. Most notably, the USS Carl Vinson, the aircraft carrier, was somewhere in the Gulf, around this neighborhood, off the coast of Oman. And this time around, President Trump would not want to get himself involved in this. These are the naval assets, the aircraft carrier I can recognize Ford here. Abraham Lincoln is in the South China Sea. George Washington is in the also in the Southeast East China Sea, and USS Tripoli. So it really doesn't seem like, it doesn't line up. President Trump may just be bolstering, but I don't think it's going to take the action against him. Canada will never let the US take over Greenland. If you see the map, you know that the moment US takes over Greenland, it makes Canada very vulnerable, because they will now be surrounded by Greenland, US mainland, and Alaska. And it will not be too long that if it is not the Trump administration, it may be another administration, they may move against Canada. Iran defense minister says any attack will get a strong response. U.S. bases and countries helping U.S. will be targeted. Iran says its defense are now stronger than before. They have made it really improved upon their defense against any possible attack. They have rebuilt their ballistic missile stock. They made it more modern. They've improved their air defense systems. We've been seeing the continuous flow of weaponry going from Russia to Iran. Trump's message to America. Nebanza is the head of the Russian mission in the United Nations. So I think they call them permanent representative. The Russian embassy in South Africa. Until the Kyiv ringleader comes to his senses and agrees to realistic terms for negotiation, we will continue solving the problem by military means. Every horrific attack on the peaceful Russian citizens will elicit response. He was confronted by the United States representative in the United Nations, and what he said, she was criticizing the attack by Oreshnik, but he said that he reminded them that in the West, they didn't even report the attack on Christmas Day against some party revelers in Kherson that led to the death of 55 people or 53 people. Besides that, also other actions against civilians by the Kyiv regime. And they were saying that they are taking retaliatory action. Meanwhile, though, the attack by Oreshnik was mainly, as they say, response to the attack on President Putin's office. Residence. The most powerful passports. Countries that give you passports that give you access to several different countries. Obviously, Singapore, Japan, and South Korea will give you access to more countries. Visa-free, you can go into those countries. You will not possibly see any African in there. The Europeans have Austria, Denmark, Luxembourg. So these are, you don't see America because there's a lot of reciprocity against America for blocking off many countries in putting them as partially banned from coming. So some countries put reciprocal actions against America, and that's why they don't have access to all the countries as Singapore has. Let's go on to now big Indian Rafale mega deal. India is continuing to buy Rafale, and they are going to buy a lot of it. I don't know how to interpret this, their lakh system and krone, but they said 3.25 lakh krone with 30% indigenous contents to make India. So we know that they were criticized for this, their Rafale planes during the Operation Sindor. Many people said that operation wasn't so successful because some Rafale planes were said to have been shot by the Chinese J10C plane. But unfortunately for the Indians, they have depended mainly on the Russians for their planes. But the Russians are so engaged now. Sukhoi and Rostov and all the Russian big military industrial complexes are busy producing planes for the Russian state. The Russian state is stocking up not only to fight Ukraine, but also they are preparing for a possible war against Europe sometime. So their industrial output, especially for planes, is being limited. We see these huge deliveries every day to the Russian military. That's not to say that countries like Algeria and some North African countries have not got even Iran have got MiG-29s. So Russia, though, used to be India's big supplier. Now they have chosen to buy the Rafale. This is a slap, though, to America, because one of the main things President Trump used in putting tariffs on India was that he wanted them to buy the F-36, buy American planes, F-16. But the Indians don't want it. There's a lot of caveat and a lot of problems that go with buying American planes. This, again, the posturing of Iranian media and Iranian military. They are really ready. They are ratcheting up, and they are saying that they are ready for anything and any problems that come their way from America. I will just do one or two stories. I think, yes, this is a story. Let us just do this story about still the same talk about Iran and all the movements going on there against America, against Iran by America. President Trump says, Iranian patriots, keep protesting, take over your institutions, save the names of killer and abusers. They will pay a big price. I have canceled all meetings with Iranian officials until the senseless killing of protesters stop. Help is on the way. President Donald J. Trump. I sincerely think that this operation will not take place. I heard in my thread protest by Israel, but even by Saudi Arabia and all the Gulf countries that it's not a good time for them to to start making an operation against Iran. They are posturing. The whole talk is about this strike may possibly happen, but I doubt if it will. President Trump has his hands full, and President Trump has business interest for his personal self and for the American state. He doesn't want to destabilize the Gulf region because what the Iranians are using to protect themselves is the fact that they can bring pain to all the countries in that region by blocking the Strait of Hormuz and by shooting down or shooting into countries that have that collaborate with America, damaging their oil industry, very huge oil industries in the Gulf region, in Saudi Arabia, in Kuwait, in Bahrain, and the Iranians have shown that they can do that. They don't want that region destabilized now, and it is for that reason why I think that this operation may not take place. Anyway, this is where I'll end the video for today. If you're new to my channel, please subscribe. If you have any views regarding the opinions I just expressed, please put them in the comment section. Do well to like and share. Until my next video, you have a good day.